right.
Alrighty, we have Mr. Chaz Julian or Chaz Whitworth on. Wait, is your middle name Julian?
Middle name's Julian.
Yup. So Chaz and I are pretty good friends. We got pretty close. We met on a squat rack in LA Fitness, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's funny how people meet because I was just squatting and this guy came up to me and was like, "Oh, can I share the rack, bro?" And I was like, "For sure." And he's one of my closest friends in LA now, and we spent a good amount of time together. Chaz is a creative director at Apple, correct?
That's true. Yeah.
So, what is a creative director? Because
you start out with the hardest question. Because there's tons of people calling themselves creative directors out there, and I really have no problem with it. But it does make it more difficult to explain to people. I feel like I'm still learning what a creative director does and is. And the easiest way to explain it to someone, just a random person on the street, is it totally depends on the industry. I think, and that's a little bit of a good way to maybe slice it. Because a creative director in fashion is similar to what a creative director in advertising does, but the end product is very different.
How so?
Well, the end product for a fashion company would be clothing, and then the end product for an advertising agency is advertising.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
So the types of things that you're paying attention to and curating, are maybe there's some crossover. There's definitely a Venn diagram of all the different creative directors.
Sure.
And in the middle would be having a vision, curation, running teams, running creative teams.
Yeah. How's that been?
Usually it's visually, you're sort of visually inclined in some way as well.
How's that been running a team? Because this is the first time that you've been in control of the team, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So as an art director, and that's sort of in my industry for anyone who's listening who doesn't happen to work in my industry, an art director is sort of where you start out, and that's just the base level. You kind of have some graphic design skill, you have a little bit of conceptual acumen, and you're creating conceptual advertising basically is what I do. So when you do that, you're sort of in charge of keeping this core idea intact. But when you actually go out to make something like a piece of advertising or a piece of film, you can't do everything yourself. So you come up through the ranks, dealing with specialists and vendors. For me, it was photographers, illustrators, film directors, people like this. So that was my first sort of exposure on explaining my vision to somebody and having them help me execute it.
Sure.
So that was really, really good practice. So I had almost 10 years of that before I had people who I was directly responsible for. So thankfully, I wasn't thrown in, completely blind.
Yeah, because you worked with a lot of those people before, and now you're just kind of getting a little bit more of control, correct? And just being able to have more control over the whole project, correct?
Yes and no. So I mean, I think that's not a bad assumption to make in terms of keeping things on rails is how I like to say it. Because I really, really like to stress empowering my team as much as possible. I do a lot of groundwork when it comes to whenever I can, selecting and curating the people who I'm eventually going to be working with, and I do that so that I can trust them when the time comes. Yeah. Because if I am the linchpin of every single project, and then boom, I get hit with 3, 5, 10 more projects. Sure. Guess what? That project's fucked. Yeah. So I try really hard. I emphasize leading and not doing. Okay. I've had my time to do. Yeah. And now it's my time to get people who are even better at doing than I was, and lead them, and do just enough to where they get exactly what my vision is. Your vision is, yeah. And then leave them alone. Yeah. And I've had the best results that way.
How does it feel because from my perspective is you have this vision in your head, this idea, and your idea comes to life, right? And you've been doing that for a very long time, right? And how's that experience? How does that feel like in terms of like, oh, there's something in my head and I create it and it's like real now?
So I can speak from my personal experience because I feel like maybe this is like some like tragic artist shit.
Okay.
But like the way that I get the best quality is by having a vision in my head that realistically I will never achieve.
Really?
Yeah, because it's the thing that you're constantly aiming for.
Can you give me an example?
When we're working out,
yeah,
we would both love to end up looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Sure.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah.
We don't stop trying.
No. Yeah.
We don't ever stop trying.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that we're shooting for.
Yeah.
We're never gonna get there.
No.
It's okay.
It's okay.
But for me, I don't have these moments where projects launch and I'm just in fucking awe of the work that I do. I never stop seeing the things that are wrong with it. I never stop seeing what I wanted to do with it.
Not one time.
I'm really working on this with my therapist. But I feel like it's also having a high standard is just the way that you get really good work.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the best way to get better at what you're doing too, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Have you always wanted to be a creative director? When little Chaz was like, I don't know, 10 years old, was he like, I want to be a creative director?
I did not know what a creative director was.
Sure.
I feel like the term creative director is ever evolving,
I guess an artistic. You wanted to do something with arts.
I did, yeah. Okay. I come from a really artistic family.
Yeah. Your parents are musicians, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. My mom was a singer. My dad does a myriad of different things, but he's classically trained pianist, composer, and a playwright.
What's a playwright?
So writes plays.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was really into musical theater.
Oh, wow.
I always hated musical theater, but it's like this weird glue that keeps my family together. So
sure.
I know way too much about Broadway and things, but I would never go see a Broadway show for my own personal enjoyment.
Sure.
But I can appreciate it at the very least. So, and my sister's a professional dancer as well. So
what type of dance?
So she's also classically trained, which means ballet.
Yeah.
But she got a degree in modern and contemporary dance at UArts in Philadelphia. So she's no longer dancing professionally. She actually owns a studio. She bought the studio that she grew up training at, and now she runs it.
Yeah. So you just basically surrounded yourself, or like you were brought.
Yeah, I did not choose this.
You were brought up in a very creative, artistic family, and you kind of just like went with the flow, and like just are where you're at now, basically. But you did go to like a creative school, a art school, correct?
Kind of, yeah. It was a weird little place.
Where was it?
So I'm from Metro Atlanta originally, and this school is located in downtown Atlanta. So it was just a rock's throw. I did take, was it graphic arts in high school? It was basically we ran a screen printing shop, which was super fun.
That sounds
cool.
Super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was run by
I don't think they have those classes in high school anymore.
No, it was like it was sandwiched in between the drafting class and like the auto mechanic thing, you know.
So it's pretty small.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty small.
Yeah. And it was there was a good like swath of different kinds of students in there.
Yeah.
We had some athletes and some people who were good at art and some people who just needed was it called an exploratory, I think, was what we called them, but
sure.
Elective class.
Okay. So
it was run by the lacrosse and JV football coach.
Oh, wow.
Coach Morrison, shout out. If we weren't watching the movie Rudy for the 20th time, we were in the lab learning how to screen print and actually running jobs for sports teams and local businesses and stuff. So
did you learn a lot from that class?
I learned a ton from that class. Yeah. And so I only did 3 years of high school. So my last year was both my junior and senior year.
How does that work?
I just had enough credits.
Oh, you just graduated?
It is a little bit of a longer story. So my parents, that was during the recession. That was 2008.
Oh shit.
So my parents actually were, struggling to find work. I feel like the arts are the first things to get defunded, right? When these things happen.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of experiencing that right now.
Exactly. So they had actually planned to move to North Georgia, and I was gonna graduate from White County High School, which is located in a fucking marble quarry. I was like, can I just graduate here?
Please?
Can I please just graduate here? And so that's the exception that they made for me.
Oh, wow.
Did not end up moving, still graduated. I only needed 1 credit to graduate after my junior year, and they were just like folded in and let me do it.
So you graduated, what, 17?
I graduated at 17, and that's when I entered the Creative Circus.
Yeah, and you were one of the youngest people at the Creative Circus, correct?
I was the youngest, correct,
And we've talked about this, about always being the youngest person in, like, your field. For me, like, I went into bartending school when I was 20. A lot of jobs that I've had, I was always the youngest too. And it's not a amazing place to be sometimes. And just talk us through, like, because like a lot of people belittle you, even if you're really good at what you do. And tell me or explain to everyone who's listening, like, what to do during those situations, in your opinion, right now, looking back at it.
Yeah. I think anyone who has any experience being in an out group of any sort, I think could attest to this, especially in any skill-based sphere of interaction, whether it's profession or whether it's a hobby or something like martial arts. If you're coming from an out group and you're unlike the other people in this group, your number one directive is to be really fucking good. Because that's the only way that you're going to get respect from these people. And I think that you probably have a similar experience of having to show your worth through your skill. So there was, no exception for me. I had to come into work, be a professional, and do really good work so that I would gain the respect of my peers. And I think that you said something, I can't remember exactly how you just worded it, but you said that there's, what did you just say? Because I was thinking that there's a direct correlation also between being in that position, also performing well, and the amount of belittlement that happens. Because when you come in fresh, they're going to give you shit no matter what.
No matter what. But being young and being really good, you're going to get more. It's also intimidating too.
You're going to get more hate. So
how did you deal with that?
That's the struggle, is because what I just said was that you have to be really good. But then I also acknowledge that doing that is just going to attract even more of that. So it's a power through situation from my experience. And maybe that's not the right approach for everyone, but that's what I had to do to get through it.
Yeah. How did you deal with that though? Like emotionally, like like coming into work every day, feeling belittled, even though you're like really good, can honestly bring people down and like not put out good work and do the opposite of what you just said. Right. And so like emotionally, like what did you respond to, like, get where you are right now? Like,
well, I was a cocky motherfucker. I saw it as a challenge and I liked it.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's kind of awesome.
So where we left off, my sort of little timeline here was that I was 17, graduated high school, didn't know what I was going to do. I found this weird school downtown called the Creative Circus. It's a 2-year, it's a technical school. So I did not do 4-year school. So I went into that. Most people treat that place as a graduate school. So everyone basically who was around me had either been in some sort of art school or graduated. Some of them had graduate degrees as well and needed something a little extra to get them into this industry. I came in fresh. So it's me 17 and everyone around me 26, 27. Like that. So the main thing that affected me, honestly, was the socialization. Like, I didn't get to go out to bars with these people. And they had their college experience. They kind of knew who they were already. They were going out and hanging out with each other. They had similar experiences like that. I was still having to drive 45 minutes back home to sleep at mom and dad's house. And there was times where they would like try to sneak me in, and it was successful multiple times. And I love these people. They're still some of my closest and best friends in the world, the people that I went to that school with.
Yeah, you talk about them a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of them ended up here, which is great.
Yeah.
But during those first couple of years, that was definitely, I was everybody's younger brother. And I had lots of friends there. It wasn't like that I was an outcast.
Sure.
I was well accepted, and I was, people wanted to be my partner and all that stuff because I was a hard worker. But yeah, it was definitely like, well, at a certain point, they're going to go do what they're going to do, and I have to kind of do my own thing. And, there's many nights where they were out at the bars doing their thing, and I was home working.
Yeah.
So just because that's how it panned out. Yeah.
Did you feel like you missed out on anything, like experience-wise?
I think I worked hard to fuck up just enough to be fun afterwards.
That's awesome, man. So let's rewind a little bit. So we started working out together. Like we exchanged each other's numbers when we started. When I met you at that squat rack, and one thing that gravitated me towards you was we listened to similar podcasts, we read similar books, and a lot of people don't read right now, and a lot of people don't really, I guess, like focus on, I guess, getting better at what they do. And I could just tell right away that you're a really hard worker. The biggest thing is, like, I was a personal trainer I still am a personal trainer. And that first day or that second time we worked out, you were just open to like learning.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, wow, like no matter where this dude is at, like he doesn't have a big head. I did it in the nicest way. I was like, hey, like I'm a personal trainer. If you want me to give like any tips, like, and then you just like, were like, yeah, like whatever you want, help out as. And I was like, you were super just like open to learning. And I feel like I'm the same way in terms of the things that, I guess I read and do. And what got you to be like that too? Because that's the biggest reason why I was gravitated towards you initially.
Yeah. I feel like curiosity is one of the most inherent traits for me. I feel like that's the thing that I remember. Some of my earliest memories are just me being really curious and just wanting to know things.
Yeah.
I was always taking things apart as a kid, wanting to know how things worked, asking my mom and dad the most ridiculous philosophical questions.
Like what?
Why are we here?
Yeah.
Like start with the basics.
What was their answer?
So mom and dad, why exactly are we here?
Yeah.
And they're just like, this is a Wendy's,
Yeah, like because I asked my parents that too. They didn't give me a straight answer, and that's why like I read a lot of like philosophy and a lot of like books like that, just because like they give a better answer than that.
Yeah, and it depends on the philosophy that you read, and I think philosophy is always at the end of the day, is like you read a book and you're like, could be cool.
Yeah.
but no philosopher is out here saying it's definitely this.
No, it's not.
Right. So that's the thing that I also love about it is I think it's you could describe it as an aversion to attachment, or just an exception and sort of just becoming okay with not having hard answers for things, or kind of loving the journey, or loving just asking the question and having a different answer every day.
Yeah. And like being open to like you could be wrong, and like you might not necessarily be right. Like questions like as why are we here? What's the purpose of living? What's our purpose? Like that shit. No one really knows. But like I think the best thing to do is like just learn about the possibilities, I would say. Because like what religion does, what a lot of cults do and stuff, they give you an answer to those questions. And people liked to know the answers, and they become comfortable with that. But that also blocks out every other possibility. I'm comfortable in this space. I'm going to stay in this space. But everything else is incorrect.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you brought up, religion and cults because I was raised in a religious cult.
Which religious cult?
So I say that half jokingly, but my granddad was an evangelical preacher.
Okay.
And he was on TV in the 80s, which makes him a televangelist. And I don't know if anyone out there is familiar with televangelism.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's the rock and roll of Christianity.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I grew up in this church, and that's also where my parents, the musicianship came into play, because they were running the music there. And it was a gospel church outside of Atlanta. Lots of jumping and screaming, people passing out, people speaking in tongues, miracles happening, and all this shit. And it's just like when we left the church when I was like 13, and it was just like they didn't pretend it never happened, but it was like we just distanced ourselves from it as much as we could.
Yeah. And
those being extremely formative years of my life, it felt like having the rug taken out from under me.
When? Yeah. Wait. Why did you feel like the rug was taken under?
Because we were extremely religious for 13 years of my life.
You were.
Well, yeah, we were. I was raised in that family.
Yeah, but your parents are still like that, correct?
No.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
We all left the church at the same time.
Okay.
And there was no like replacement for it. It was just remember all that your whole life is based on? Yeah, we're not really doing that anymore. So what are we doing now? I don't know.
Oh,
it's
wow.
like, yeah, they didn't replace it with anything. So I was then left to
search, kind
of start picking up the pieces and building on my own.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I don't know. Yeah, I definitely just embraced the unknowingness of it. Yeah. Because whether it be a reaction, whether that be my true nature, or whether it be a little bit of a reaction to, an institution that claimed with such veracity that they did have all the answers, and I knew the whole time that they didn't.
Sure.
I fucking hate people like that.
Yeah. What's your
no one has the answers.
No, for sure. But what's your response to that question now? Like, why are we here? Like, if someone had asked you that.
I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, without being too trite, I mean, like, I think you have to figure that out for yourself. Like, the short answer is no one put you here for a specific reason and then just didn't tell you.
Yeah.
I don't think that, when you look at the mechanics of what's assumed when people ask that question, it's as if someone hid the answer from them in a fortune cookie somewhere, and they like have to go to the right Chinese restaurant and they're like trying to figure it out. Yeah. I'm like, it's not that. Yeah. So it's going to be a little fuzzier than that. Yeah. But I mean, and at different times in your life, I feel like that answer can change too, Yeah. Like,
I mean, I think throughout life, everyone's evolving. Like, I'm not the same person I am today as I was even last week or even a year.
Totally. And I mean, I think that's ago. Like that's healthy and natural, right?
Yeah.
Is learning and growing and becoming a different person.
Yeah. Because like, there's a decent amount of people out there who, they keep wishing like, oh, I wish I was back at this point in my life, and like a couple years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. Yeah. And that kind of sucks. Like I haven't had that yet, and I hope I never do. Yeah. Just like I always want to grow, always want to expand, always want to be like doing better than I was like yesterday or the day before.
It's tough. It's tough, especially when you have a period in your life that's really just blissful, and everything kind of clicks, and maybe you start to take things for granted, and then the pieces start to sort of fall apart, or your amazing friend group starts to split off and do their own things. And then a couple years later, you're left with, oh, nothing is really like how I just assumed it was going to stay. Yeah. I think momentum is another really big theme in my life, because it's like a sandcastle. Like, it's never going to stay the way it is, even if it's beautiful and perfect for a few minutes. You have to keep working on it.
Yeah, I think that's why me and you get along too. It's because like, in terms of like work ethic, like you are working on way more things than just your Apple job. You got your own creative projects, all this stuff. Yeah. But like, I feel like you just keep doing it, because if you think you stopped, like you're just not gonna. It's gonna slow you down. Like, and that momentum, you just want to keep building and building and building and building. Yeah. And sometimes there's a point where, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Well, sometimes it's like not healthy, And I've seen you at a point where like you're just like totally dead.
Oh yeah.
And then likewise for me too. And what's your advice on that? Like obviously like working consistently all the time on personal projects as well as work can be super beneficial and help you grow a lot faster. But there's also the other side where like you could also go way to a point where it's unhealthy for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to just break that down to a different couple categories. The work thing is obviously the most rigid because that's my job, it's my career, it's the thing that I have to care for the most in terms of priority. And the job can be very, very intense.
Yeah.
You know, I've had countless all-nighters.
Yeah.
You know, 60-hour weeks, 80-hour weeks. These are not rare occurrences in my industry.
Sure.
The work day does not stop at 5 p.m. It stops when the work is done. And working for a company who's a design-based company and has, you know, a rich history of some of the best advertising in the world and the most memorable, you know, we constantly sort of have that weighing on us in terms of what we deliver has to stack up.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's the reputation of the brand that we're the keepers of. Yeah. And then the personal reputation falls below that in terms of things don't always come out the way that you want them to, but did you try your hardest? Did you push the right amount? Did you say the right things? And ultimately, if it's not as good, did you take responsibility for the things that didn't go right as well? So I don't want to get too off track there, but that's sort of like my focus when it comes to the professional stuff. The personal stuff is not goal oriented. It's all about personal expression and doing work that I want to do. That I enjoy. Yeah. So it's more about the process rather than the outcome. I do like helping small business owners and my friends who are starting brands and things like that. But yeah, so that's actually enriching in a certain way. And it does involve work, and sometimes it does involve a lot of work. And so it can become work again. It can become tiring.
Is it hard to differentiate sometimes or like split up apart? Like this is work and this is work that's for me. Is it hard to be like, this is not necessarily super enjoyable, but this has to be enjoyable?
I think the key to surviving in a creative industry is to take something that's for somebody else and slowly try to like impose your will on it in the right way. Yeah. Because a good designer should always be invisible. But I don't think that's always the same for a good creative director or a good director. Okay. Right. I think you can, by putting something very personal into a piece of work, you can actually communicate and connect emotionally with a large amount of people. And I think that some of the best creative work does that. Yeah. And then on the personal projects, it's the opposite problem of something that's really solely focused on the things that I want to do, pulling it, you know, struggling to make it valuable to the world at large and to the person who owns this business that I'm working with. Sure. So it's like two ends of the spectrum fighting in two opposite ways. Yeah,
for sure. So there's a lot of creative people in the world, and there's a lot of creatives who don't make it. And
what's make it?
Make a career out of it. Like put a roof over your head, food on the table, like, you know, that type of deal, especially in LA. And objectively, like if that's the definition of making it, you've made it, right? You're making a living off doing creative things. But a lot of creative people don't have like the work ethic you do. And you have that creative thing from your environment that you grew up in and just being raised in that sense and just surrounding it your entire life. But where did that work ethic come from?
The same place.
Same place.
Oh yeah.
Your parents were very hard workers.
Performance driven. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Not to the level of some, you know, Olympic parents and things like that. Yeah. But there is the concept of a stage parent, and that's a parent that, you know, is solely focused on the performance of their young child on stage and in performance. So, you know, they were aware of this and they weren't nearly as bad. But they did achieve certain levels within their own, verticals of skill development and things like that. My dad was very competitive as a young pianist and composer, and in college and all sorts of stuff. And he was very prolific with the amount of work that he made in his career.
Sure.
And so I knew that from a very young age.
That's beautiful, bro.
My sister was very, very successful as a young girl. She dropped out of school and started homeschooling. She skipped 2 grades, was extremely high performing academic.
Wow.
And also just ahead of her league in terms of dance skill and performance level.
Yeah.
And then, my mom is very much the same. She was sort of a support structure for us. But she also, she got 2 degrees while being a single parent. Wow. And just did so much. She's a very, very hard worker. And I think, so that was instilled from us from the very start, basically. Wow. And almost to an unhealthy degree, and this is something that I'm also talking about with my therapist, is that sometimes you just went unnoticed unless you did something exceptional.
Sometimes you went unnoticed until you did something exceptional. Okay.
And so as a child, not getting too deep into this, but as a child, there was lots of times where you just didn't get attention unless you did something exceptional. And so that's from a very young age, that gets sort of drilled into you, or you internalize that in order to be loved and get attention, you have to perform.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that.
That sounds very bad. And, it sucks in a lot of ways, but at the same time,
it probably benefited you too.
It totally benefited me in other ways.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you call it? So we were talking a few weeks ago about, if you've been in San Francisco, my work was probably on a bus station or like a bus stop. How's it seeing your work just like around town? Like,
so, again, like I said, I'm always being nitpicky and picking things apart, but there's been a couple campaigns that I did that I absolutely love seeing. And I love when people send me the link on Instagram or take photos of it or do whatever, even when people graffiti over it, or like, one of the campaigns I worked on was shot on iPhone. Yeah. And I worked on multiple iterations of it, but that campaign was spoofed. If you ever have a campaign that's spoofed, or spoofed? People make a fake version of it, or make memes about it, that's the best shit.
Oh, okay.
Because it means that
attention's
that you matter. Yeah. Right, exactly. I love it. Even if it's making fun of the concept or making fun of something. There was people in Europe, and maybe it was San Francisco. People were spoofing shot on iPhone ads and printing them and pasting them over the bus stops was not easy. Like, it's a very, very big. Yeah, you can't do that on a normal printer. So we were, internally like, this is fucking awesome.
Just tell all your coworkers.
Oh, this is great. Yeah, they're vandalizing our stuff.
That is awesome.
So yeah, whenever you're parodied or spoofed, I mean, that's a, it's an honor as a creative.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily get joy from like seeing it. You get joy from like people like using it, or you in a different manner, I guess.
Yeah, when it takes on campaigns,
like a life of its own type of deal.
Exactly. Yeah. Campaigns can take on a life of their own, and I think the things that I'm most proud of in life have been things that have done that.
Yeah. Let's talk about therapy real quick. You just started taking therapy, like, for the first time?
Yeah. So during the lockdown, I finally just was like, you know what? I've been talking about this. I've been reading about it for a long, long time, and just decided to pull the trigger, and I downloaded that at BetterHelp. Yeah. So
how has it benefited you?
It's benefited me in having some objectivity, I think.
Just looking at your life from an outside perspective.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just like analyzing it and working on it through that manner.
Yeah, and instilling some healthy habits. I mean, I was very proactive before and still, and I think my guy will comment on the things that I'm already doing and then suggest doing other things, and so yeah, it's not a cure-all, it's a process too.
Sure.
You got to be patient. I went through one person that was clearly just not going to work out. Just the vibe wasn't right. And then I found the current guy, and I've just been kind of sticking with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been enjoying it?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people out there who, I guess, say that, like, I could just read books. I could just work on myself. Like, I could just have conversations with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your response to that in terms of, like, versus therapy?
Don't be the friend that relies on your friends to be your therapist.
Yeah. That can hurt a lot of friendships too, right? Like we were talking about it.
If you need a lot of therapy, that can definitely ruin a friendship.
In terms of just like spitting baggage and baggage and baggage.
Yeah, if it's a constant thing, and that's a little rough, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be rough. Oh, and a lot of people lean on relationships for this too, and it's just like.
Yeah.
It's okay to have baggage. It's okay to be dealing with these things, and it's even okay to have these conversations sometimes. But you know, I've had relationships in my life that I felt that I slowly became a therapist to some people, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not. That's not why I'm here.
Yeah. And
it's just a little one-sided and kind of, you know.
It's like sometimes you want to hang out with your friends and just have a good time, and then all of a sudden you're just like listening to them during the entire night.
If it's an all of a sudden thing, that usually means that, you know, the person is in distress maybe, and they do need some help, and that's fine if it's an all of a sudden thing. But if you go into a situation and you're like, oh, it's probably going to be like this again, that means like maybe that's too many times.
Yeah, I've definitely put some baggage on you a couple times.
No, likewise. No, and it goes both ways.
Versa,
but in terms of like the total time that we spend together,
it's not.
It's like 5% deep convos with you know, and that stuff. It's totally in the healthy range.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've had, you know, I think that. Like our dynamic is a great balance for me.
Yeah.
But then, you know, there's others that are just like, well, you know, there's people you can see about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I really appreciate our dynamic, and I really treasure it in the sense of like, I want to keep it like that way. 'Cause there's a lot of, I'm going to be honest with you. That's the main reason why, like, I started a bitters company, right? And I have all these things that like kind of need marketing and design for, and I really did not want to use you or like even talk about it, because I was like, I don't want to use one of my best friends, you know, it could potentially like be deteriorative, you know? And I also wanted to show you that like I could create something like really good by like on my own, you know?
Well, you did, first of all.
Thank you.
You made something better than what I would have done for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And I'm just not the right person to do what your guy did.
Yeah.
And I think that you got a really good deal.
Great
Shout out to, what's your guy's name?
Bare Hand something. He's from Europe. Yeah, we had to pay him through some like whack ass like app or whatever.
Shout out to
Bare Hand something. I don't know.
You get this guy's name up, because he did a really fucking good job on your brand and the labeling and all that. It's really cohesive. It's appropriate, and I think it's going to stick out in the market. And those are three really important things. Either selfishly or selflessly, I wouldn't have been the right person to do that, and I would have told you that up front. I'm always here to give advice and things like that, but I do have a lot of friends that approach me for their brands and certain things, and I just have to be honest. Sometimes I'm not, you know, I have a long history in working with tech brands and things like that, but when it comes to like your CBD makeup line, like I will point you to the person to do that. It's just not me.
Yeah.
And I think that any good designer or just creative director should be honest about those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then some things, you know, are I feel like I'm more inclined to do and whatnot. But no, man, I'm super proud of how far you've come with that thing, and it's been awesome just like watching you grow and develop. And the same with this podcast too.
It was just an idea.
You're not the friend that just is constantly talking about the shit that he wants to do. You're the friend that's like, it's 2 days later and you're like, oh yeah, I've got 8 podcasts. I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I know. Everyone told me to slow down.
Yeah,
I did. I'm doing it every Friday now, but I knocked out like 8 in 3 days, and people.
No, I love that I'm constantly having to catch up rather than like hear the same thing over and over. It's like, oh shit, oh you really took that and ran with it. Okay, love it.
Yeah, one thing I love too is like we've talked about it before. It's like friends who really love seeing friends do well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and this is a super important conversation.
And because I've had a lot of friends, like they won't say it or not, but like they see you do well and you kind of get a sense, or they'll tell you like that should have been me, or you didn't deserve that, or ugh. And like they could be very close people to you, and that can kind of hurt sometimes. And I've had to like really learn to like distance myself from those type of people, even though I might care about them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really important. You know, we kind of got started talking about the healthy boundaries thing when you were asking about workload and stuff. Mm-hmm. This is the same thing for me, is constantly asking yourself, what do I need in this moment?
Yeah.
And especially when you're with people like this.
Yeah.
What do I need in this moment? When someone, I mean, you're lucky that it's overt because I think that's like,
what do you mean overt?
When they're like, I don't like that you're successful, Nate, and you don't deserve it. Because a lot of people are just very underhanded and will just slowly.
No, there's some people who
slowly turn up the slime factor. Yeah. And then it's like, wait, are we friends? Or like, why are you doing this? Yeah. And it's like, at least if it's overt, you're like, oh, you're a fucking asshole. but because you have to ask yourself this question of like, do I need this? Is this healthy for me right now? Do I need this right now?
Yeah.
You have to be really, really in tune with that. And you have to be okay with enforcing it if it's a no.
Yeah.
You know, this is not healthy for me right now. This is not good for me right now. And even though I have a long history with this person and I love them, I don't like them.
Yeah.
Or I don't like this behavior.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's really hard to, you can't change people. You know, like you could do your best to like, my opinion on it's like you could just put your best foot forward, be the best person for you, and that could help everyone around you. And if they still don't want to like adapt in a manner that is beneficial towards you or to a healthy lifestyle, like yeah, it's hard to like let go sometimes, especially like with family. In my experience, it sounds like your family's always been super supportive. Mm-hmm. And some family members like can be super negative in what you're doing, you know, and like sometimes you have to distance yourself there too.
Yeah. Thankfully, I haven't come across that too much. I think there's a hometown factor of like anyone who moves away and does something that's better than whatever the fuck they would be doing if they stayed back.
Yeah.
The people who did stay back a lot of times are bitter. Mm-hmm. I've come across that a lot. Thankfully, I also have people in my life who've been in my life since I was very, very young who have been constant. Mm. And these are some of the closest people to me, people from back home. Mm. So I've had also the extreme opposite of just like nothing but love and support from these people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm super lucky because a lot of people don't talk to people from high school, and I wasn't like popular in high school or whatever. You know, I did okay. I had a lot of friends, but a lot of people just put that behind them. But like, I actually have people from my high school that I love. That like,
my best friends are from high school.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and a lot of people don't have that. Especially a lot of like artsy kids who like get out and go to a major city and like do a new life there.
Yeah. A lot of people try to find their new identity and change like who they are.
Yeah. But I've thankfully have some friends from back home who we have just amicably sort of watched each other grow. And you know,
it's a beautiful
maybe
thing.
See each other in December sometimes, and it's fun. And yeah, exactly.
Isn't it kind of cool to see like at that one point in high school or like whatever, you're kind of similar. You're doing the same things, you're playing the same sports, and you have this friend group that evolves and grows, and it's not what you're doing, and all of them are doing different things,
right?
And they're all kind of just killing it in whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. It's to see that. And then you guys come together in December sometimes. What's everyone up to? But it also feels like, oh, I just talked to you guys yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because you have to go out and do what you're called to do in life. And I think that's the only thing that's going to put those demons to rest in terms of the hometown guy that maybe had a kid a little too young and used it as an excuse to do this or not to not pursue this or maybe that was just a reality of having of being in that position, or maybe they really did not have the opportunities, and that's real too. But you know, that lack of action for whatever reason eventually turns to resentment, and that's the sole cause of these types of behaviors that you and I are talking about. But yeah, it's super shitty, man. When you have someone who's close to you who can tell is getting a little resentful, sort of as you become more successful, it's like, well, it's hard not to see a correlation here. You know, even if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, you also have to just be real with yourself and say, this is a toxic person, and you know, I'm gonna give them some time to try and sort that out, or maybe bring it up. But at the end of the day, you got to look out for yourself. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. What did I want to talk about? Oh, so Chaz is like a man's man. He takes off his beanie. He is bald. He has this like good looking beard, right? Like, look at what this guy's wearing. And he was into, I might lift more weights than him, but he's definitely a more manly guy than me for sure. So martial arts is a huge part of your life, right?
Yeah.
And you have a black belt in Kung Fu.
Yeah.
And you have, what's that, like kind of like yoga-y?
Oh, Tai Chi.
So is there a black belt in Tai Chi?
Well, I mean, there's no standardized system.
Okay.
But in the form of Chinese martial art that I was studying, in order to progress, there was the external system, which was the hard hitting kung fu, as you see, you know, in the movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Tai Chi is also a very applicable martial art, and it's practiced.
Just the movements.
It's practiced slowly for a reason, and there's history behind that. That has to do with, it's much like capoeira, where when certain dynasties would take over in China, certain martial arts were banned and they were changed to reflect other martial arts and were practiced in secret. So yeah, I was.
And you do Muay Thai too, correct?
I do Muay Thai now. Yeah. So Kung Fu I did in Atlanta under Master Michael Reed, who was a retired Atlanta Falcons defensive end and linebacker. Okay. Extremely athletic guy, extremely intelligent as well. He was the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, and the most knowledgeable out of all of us. So it was great just to have such
learn from.
Yeah, have such a powerful force in my life who was not my dad, who was sort of a father figure in that way, and put up with so much of my shit, I will say, looking back. But he always let me know. Yeah. He's like, that's not what I taught you, but it's interesting.
Like, good for you.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out to Master Reed. I would not be in any good shape, you know, at this point in my life.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Played a huge factor.
Oh yeah, huge factor. So yeah, I studied with him for probably 7 or 8 years. I have a second degree black belt in Kung Fu and was teaching classes when I was like 14, 15. Yeah. And he empowered me to do that. Yeah. And later on, he would tell me about how people would come and complain and about when they figured out how young I was and were giving him shit about letting me teach classes. And he says, okay, well, show me what he taught you. He's like, it's right. It's correct. Is there any problems? You know, it's like he was willing to take that to empower me to start being a leader at a young age. Yeah. And that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I feel like I didn't know that about you. And I feel that experience helps you in the stuff that you're doing right now.
Being able to walk into a room full of people who were at that time were much older than me. Because it wasn't, I was helping out with the kids' classes and stuff, but I was teaching adults. Yeah. As a 14-year-old. And so to walk into a class of 20 people, and that's like public speaking. It's like, you know, teaching a skill. Yeah. And there was always different ranks. So you'd have to split them up because they were all learning different material. And I would have to go and keep a class going. Yeah. And so, oh yeah, that was so beneficial to me and what I do now, professionally. So I stopped training and I started getting really unhealthy and moved to San Francisco. I was smoking cigarettes and drinking way too much and smoking weed. And I moved down here and I was in a relationship which ended in like 2014.
Yeah. How was that experience moving from, I guess, Atlanta to LA?
Atlanta to San Francisco,
to LA.
And San Francisco to LA. It was great because I had the job at Media Arts Lab where I started working for Apple. So it was a no-brainer. But that's when I started picking up Muay Thai, is when that relationship sort of ended. I was probably 150 pounds, just completely out of shape, just skinny, just overworked, stressed. Yeah. Was losing my hair. And
it's a good look on him.
And I found the Thai Boxing Institute in Venice, which is was their old location at this point in time. And Coach Vic took me under his wing and again put up with a lot of my shit. Yeah. But he was such a great friend and still is, and coach. Yeah. And I watched his business grow and flourish over time. I mean, it was small classes back then, and we were very kind of a niche community. Yeah. I was in the building when it actually caught on fire and burned to the ground.
Relatively recently.
A couple years ago. Yeah. We crazy story, man. I mean, it was me and one other guy. This was when I was first starting strength training. Yeah. Because I saw Coach at 135 pounds deadlift 4 plates in front of me.
Yeah, that's a lot. If anyone who doesn't know fitness, that's a lot.
And I was like, I want to do that. Yeah. So he taught me the basics, and I would go in on Sundays and start lifting. So yeah. Anyway, the building, it was a little strip mall on Sepulveda, and the building actually caught on fire. We thought that they were just going to put it out, and me and the other guy who was in the gym, the firefighters came by the window and they're like, "Get out! Yeah, the building's on fire. Yeah, get out." Yeah, and we're like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. Within 10 minutes, the entire building was on fire. Coach rolled up. He usually took Sundays off. But I was texting. I was like, "You need to come." Yeah. A crowd had gathered by that point, and a lot of the members of the gym had come through because we had a group chat, and Coach was watching. Oh, this was also on the 5th anniversary. Yeah. The day. Yeah. The 5th anniversary of the day that he opened the gym, which was like really emotional. Yeah. Watching your life's work basically burn to the ground. Yeah. So we're by the back door, and Coach goes to walk up the steps to try to peek his head in, and we're just seeing it's just flames, right? Yeah. And right as he's walking up the stairs, there's like 2 stairs before you get in. The ceiling collapses, and I literally had to pull him back from his jacket. Fuck. He was 2 steps from being inside. Fuck. And we all kind of just broke down at that point. They ended up putting out the flames, and we snuck past the firefighters and went and got all of his championship belts and trophies. We got all the pads out of there, washed all of them. Anything that was basically salvageable. Yeah. We went and got, and we had, I think, 2 or 3 people in fight camp at the time. We picked up on Monday.
Fight camp is basically where someone's training to do a actual fight.
A competition.
Yep. Okay, yep. Sorry.
And we picked up on Monday at Mar Vista Park, just like that was our gym.
Oh, wow. At a park.
Just no downtime.
Damn.
Yeah. And
that's definitely an experience.
So yeah, the Muay Thai thing is great, and I tried to take it a little more seriously a couple times. I signed up for competition twice. I got injured both times. Yeah. I still haven't fought.
Well, I kind of think like the biggest thing for martial arts in general is like Jordan Peterson talks about it. Like, a great man is not a dangerous man. A great man is like a nice man who's capable of being dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'm totally there yet, but like, I know you could fuck someone up if we were together. And
you
like,
could. Like, you're good.
I don't know, but like I feel like is that like, for me, like, that's why I work out a lot too, like, and to be strong and stuff, because to like stick up for yourself when you probably won't need to, but if you do, you're capable of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's kind of a progression for most people that enter martial arts and stay long enough to see what it's really capable of, and be in some positions where you that challenge that notion of your ability to have control over any situation.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys especially enter these gyms and either want to try to show out right away, which never goes well, by the way. Don't be that guy.
Didn't you say like one time like some guy came into your gym and was like
this is like weekly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is always happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're sparring with this person and you're more experienced, you have to say, only the rule of thumb is, hit me as hard as you want to get hit, but let's go light.
Yeah.
There's no one's trying to prove anything here. This is skill based. This is we're all trying to get better. And most of the times they do not heed this advice.
Yeah.
And things, usually end badly.
Chaz fucks people up. That's basically what it was.
I've done it a couple times. Other people have done it.
For sure.
It's been done to me, so it's a rite of passage.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But the thing is you enter, and a lot of guys have this notion of like, oh, I'm gonna get strong, or I'm gonna learn how to fuck people up, and then I'm gonna go fuck people up. Usually, what happens though, I think.
It humbles you for sure.
It's a humbling experience, exactly. Yeah. And so hopefully what I came out of those experiences with is, yes, I had these skills to defend myself or people that I love, but I also see that the skill only gets you so much.
What do you mean by that?
You never know what's going to happen in a bar fight or anything like that.
Yeah.
Being in a confrontation out in the world is much, much, much different than being in a sanctioned fight inside of a ring with a referee with a headgear on until you have 3 fights. It's like that's like you can still get fucked up, obviously, because you're going up against another skilled person.
Yeah.
But you see also how quickly the tables can turn, and everybody has a puncher's chance. And
one punch could.
It really could, and it doesn't matter how long you've been training. If you get blindsided because you were talking shit, then the skill's no good because you're unconscious on the ground.
Have you ever been in a bar fight?
I've not.
I haven't either, thank God.
Nothing where punches were thrown.
Yeah.
I was in some neighborhood type brawls when I was younger.
Yeah.
There was a fight club behind a strip mall in a small town in Georgia that I went and
super humbling, like martial
around.
arts in general. Like I did jiu-jitsu I think for like 6 months, and I did Shotokan karate before that, and I kind of got close to my black belt. I probably want to get it eventually. But jiu-jitsu, like a smaller guy than me, the first day I went in, I think put me in a triangle in like less than 5 seconds. And I didn't want to tap. I was trying to figure out how to get out, and then I started like going to sleep, and I was like, fuck this. Like, tap, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, okay, let's go again. 5 seconds. I was like, what the fuck? This dude is like 20 pounds lighter than me, whatever. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm a strong guy, objectively. I lift a lot of weight. And just to see that skill happen to me, a smaller guy, do that and make me helpless is so humbling.
Oh, yeah.
And then going through that, I forgot what you said that growing phase was, but me doing that to someone who was much bigger than me towards the end, like a 200-pound guy.
Right.
5-10 seconds, brand new guy to the gym. I'm like, yes,
it's your turn.
It's my turn. And
exactly
is a very, I think, important skill, and just like martial arts in general, just to like understand that growth and understand that what the human body's capable of. Because like martial arts in general, I think, as well as like working out, as well as like anything fitness wise, gets you in tune with your body. Gets you know it very well, and especially martial arts, what you can do to other people's bodies too. Okay, so into fitness, you got into strength training. stuff like that. You started running too. What does fitness do for you? Because like right now, like you come work out with me, you run once in a while, and every time we're done, you're like, damn, I needed that.
Yeah.
Like, why is it important to you? How has it helped your life just being, I guess, an active or like lifting weights too? Like, because I know your weight, you like gained a lot of weight too, like in a good way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, go through that real quick.
Yeah. Weightlifting now is sort of I mean, just because we're in the shutdown and everything, I've been a little sketched about going back to the gym with tons and tons of people in there. And I've done it a couple of times, but just trying to keep that to a minimum right now. But also I was kind of starting to focus on the strength training a little bit more anyway. And this largely came after an injury that I had that I realized was caused by
So your shoulder?
No, it was the injury to my right tibia that I had to drop out of the fight camp for the second time. I realized because it was because I had certain weaknesses and my body was imbalanced and the parts that were strong, the parts that were weak.
Yeah.
But exercise for me is my primary, you could call it therapy. When I get
in what way?
Well, when I'm working for hours and hours, days and weeks on end, and I'm just sitting at that desk and I'm just ruminating in my head and I'm just a natural overthinker.
Yeah.
Exercise is really, like vigorous exercise is really the only thing that just gets me out of that mindset. When shit gets dark, I have to work out. That's me. And like 98% of the time, that's just what I need, and it works very well.
Yeah, and you just keep doing it because you get those same feelings, you get those same endorphins, you see that effect on your body too.
Yeah. I mean, after a session of heavy deadlifts, I get back in my car and I feel taller, like I feel bigger. I feel like I'm up straight. I'm speaking with more confidence, and it's just I feel like it just takes off this sort of constrictive layer of anxiety that tends to creep up. Yeah.
I mean, it's like a huge task too. Like it's a huge task for your body. You're using your grip strength, you're using your core, you're using your hamstrings, you're using your lower back, you're using your traps. Like in terms of like full body movements, like deadlifts is just like my body has to work to get this heavy fucking weight up, and releasing all that tension. You're like, you can't worry about anything. You can't worry about how shitty your day was. You can't worry about some shit that's going on at work. It's like my mental energy has to be focusing on picking this heavy shit up. And that's what I have to do right now if I want to get that task done.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not your classic extrovert. Like I'm not like a loud, gregarious person all the time, but I am a high energy person.
I see. Yeah.
So I'm pretty chill for those that don't know me. I'm usually not the loudest one in the room, but I'm a high energy person, which means that I'm always busy. If you, I'm sorry to anyone who I've ever watched a movie with who I've walked out.
Wait, you've walked out on movies?
Oh, so many times.
Really?
Yeah. It's not personal. One of my best friends I used to live with in San Francisco, Sean, he showed me, we were talking, I don't remember how we got into this, but he's a big fan of French film, French cinema.
You're talking about working out.
Yeah, but
good energy, whatever. Continue.
I'll come full circle, probably. He was like, "Oh yeah, there's this famous, French director, Jean-Luc Godard." And
I've heard of him.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot of his movies are like art films.
Yeah.
And we started watching it, and I'm almost ashamed to say this now, but I was just like, "Huh?" And I tried to watch, and there's a scene in this movie called The Weeknd where, I mean, it's supposed to be funny. I didn't know this at the time, but there's a traffic jam, and the scene literally is like 8 minutes of like panning along all the different cars in the traffic jam.
Yeah,
I'm just like, yo, fuck this.
You just got up.
I got up and left, and he was so pissed.
Damn.
Because he was like, bro, how are you gonna walk out? And I'm just like, I walked out of so many movies just because like if I'm just maybe ADD, maybe I just have too much energy, maybe I just am too easily distracted or need to work on focusing. I don't know. You can say any or all of those things, but I feel like I constantly need to be
stimulated,
preoccupied, and stimulated. And yeah, so even when Marilyn and I are home watching, whether it's a movie or TV, I'm usually always doing something else also. Yeah.
Always being preoccupied.
Yeah. I mean, I try to be focused and preoccupied with something, that's purposeful, but it doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah. In terms of purpose, like, do you believe that what you're doing right now is your purpose? Like, I don't know. Like, in everything I do, I just, like, back to the curiosity thing. I kind of just do whatever the fuck I want to do, and hopefully it works out. And I don't know if that's your philosophy on life, but that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not one of these people who have their life's purpose, in this like neat,
articulated,
articulated manner. In this little neat box.
Yeah.
I'm very in terms of like that kind of stuff. I'm very directional.
Sure.
I like the idea of a compass more than I like the idea of an end destination.
Yeah, it's like just I'm in the right direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So because that empowers me in the moment to make a choice.
Yeah.
And set directionality for myself.
Yeah.
And because we already acknowledged that we're constantly learning and growing, I don't want to tell myself that 5 years from now I'm supposed to do this thing.
Yeah.
When if I follow that compass every day, I'm actually going to end up here
or
over there.
Versus like, this is where I want to get. Once I get there, I'm just staying there.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I'm just okay with.
Yeah.
I'm agnostic on everything. And people see that as a cop-out. I see it as, let's be realistic. None of us fucking know.
No, yeah.
Right? Can we just like, it's cool to talk about and it's fun to talk about, but it's a what if. And God, so many wars have been fought over people who were just convinced that they knew.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
We don't know.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I try to embrace that. That's my personal philosophy.
Yeah. So I've met you before you got your job at Apple, and I've seen you like get to the place where you are now. And when you say you're a lot more comfortable than where you were freelancing, right?
So yes and no, because I was actually working for Apple for 5 years before I met you.
Yeah.
So I had all those experiences.
I'm just talking about like job stability and stuff like that.
Job stability. Yeah. So when I started freelancing, I did so, I worked full time from 2010 to 2017. And just decided that to avoid, I was already burnt out, but like, I don't know what's even more burnt out than burnt out, but like I was trying to avoid that because I was already burnt out. So I was trying to avoid, I don't know, doing permanent damage. Like, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the idea was that I would have a little bit more autonomy over my schedule, over the projects that I took. And then also that I would just have this free time, which sounds great. But
you had like months off.
As you know.
Yeah. Oh, right now. Yeah.
Free time is a double-edged sword.
It is.
And if you don't know what you're going to do with your free time, it's mostly bad.
Yeah.
It can be.
It can be.
I'm someone who, and we just talked about this last time I came over because this is January 10th. And, the break between New Year's and Christmas is just, it's the time where everyone just becomes a piece of shit and it's okay.
Most people,
right? And you just do nothing.
Yeah.
God, that's like the worst. Not that I don't enjoy doing it, but I also feel like shit.
Yeah.
When I do
nothing.
When I do nothing.
Yeah.
So freelancing, it was, I was largely taking long-term gigs which was good for me.
But you also had long-term off.
Yeah, exactly. And some of those were unplanned. And so that was the time where I was like, okay, you've been sitting at your desk refreshing your Gmail for 2 hours. What's next?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like I had to break out of that for sure.
Because, but like objectively, you're pretty consistent right now. You kind of have a balance of like doing your own creative stuff. You've moved into a new spot.
Yep.
You have a lot more like space.
Yep. I have a studio.
Yeah. To basically do your own thing. And like you have like, yeah, basically enjoying life more. Right. From what I see. And you could correct me if I'm wrong, but like, so what is Chaz Whitworth most excited for in his life right now? Like, because, I mean, we've both like just like grown and like in terms of just like comfortability and like me a year ago too, like into a nicer spot, way nicer spot. Yeah. And like you too, and just job wise, like what is Chaz Whitworth more like excited about? What does he want to do now? Like, what's the next thing?
Yeah. Yeah. So the next thing is this thing for me. It's enjoying and really, what's the word I'm looking for? Embracing what? all the hard work that I've put in to get to this position. I don't want to lose the forest through the trees. I want to be very conscious and aware of every moment of my life and enjoy it because it's fucking good. Yeah. And in the past, I've been so preoccupied with getting better that I didn't take the time to actually enjoy the things that I had in those moments, which were great. Yeah. And I think that's comes with being young, but it's something that I'm becoming more aware of. And it helps me just have better days. Yeah. Yeah.
So just fucking enjoy what you got.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not goal oriented that much. I mean, really all I ever wanted in my life was get the fuck out of my hometown and make a life out of doing creative work. Well, that happened really quickly. Yeah. And I was like, wait, fuck. Okay. What's my new goal? And it was like, life just took me. Yeah. Like the wave came and I really didn't have time to think. Like I just kind of like rode the wave. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm just saying that life took me somewhere before I had the time to sit down and really pretend that I knew it was going to happen and plan everything out and do that. I mean, there was some planning that happened, but dude, it's opportunities come and you seize them or you don't, and you do your best. But I mean, I've just never been one of these people who had that type of autonomy over
that's awesome, man.
Future. But I mean, it's worked out better than I thought it would, so I think I'm cool with that.
Isn't it funny how it works out? Like you just fall in that direction of what you're like compelled to, and just somehow works out, and like it possibly couldn't.
Well, we say it somehow works out, but you and I both work our asses off. And I think like having a reputation as someone with a work ethic is constantly coming into play for me. I mean, it's in my industry, it's not about who you know, but it's about who you are, and a reputation is huge. Yeah. I'm hiring people right now, and I mean, I've gotten to know a lot of people in my industry, and a lot of that's through the exposure I got through things like winning awards and working at different places and things like this. So now when I'm hiring someone, I can reach out to their boss from their last place and say, what is this person like? Yeah. Oh, they're shitty? Thank you.
And then, even
or they're great. Thank
you. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of awesome to like be able to do that. And like, I guess like, I don't know where I was going with that, but my point with that I wanted to get to was, for advice for any, I guess, creative person out there.
Hold up. Cause I want to wrap this up in a bow before you take it.
A different, go ahead.
Because I think what we were both kind of saying is that you can plan for the future, but what's more important is tending to the person that you are now and becoming, and being that person, being that solid person every single day is so much more important, because opportunities will find you if you're that person. But if you're more focused and distracted on everything else and you don't actually do the things that are important day in and day out, which are often, you know,
because that's what I was talking about in terms of just like just doing whatever and it somehow works out. Right. And I guess your point is like, yes and no. It's yes, because like you are doing that, but you're also being a good human being, a hard worker, and all those things. And that is why it works out.
Yeah, totally. You know, totally.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm happy. Happy you brought it back. I was like, what are we talking about? But yeah, I wanted to end on like, for anyone out there who wants to be I guess like make money off creative work, not work necessarily a job that
Yeah.
you do a certain task that you do not enjoy or are not necessarily passionate about. Because I think that what me and you have in common that like brings us together in a lot of ways is though we may not enjoy certain tasks certain days, overall we enjoy everything that we do. So to the person out there, to the people out there who are just like not enjoying what they do every single day in terms of like making money or in terms of like a job that they're at, but they want to get out of it, and some person's super curious about or passionate about a certain thing, about making desks or designs or whatever. What's your advice on, I guess, to do the things that you enjoy and make a living out of doing that?
Yeah.
And betting on yourself.
Yeah. So, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer about making your passion your paycheck, but there's a lot of reality checks that happen. And there's some cases where I think that's a really good idea, and there's some cases where I think it's not that good of an idea. And that's just
In what way? Like, what's a really not good idea?
Well, I think that just because you're passionate about something, you have to be realistic about the types of businesses that are going to be successful in the real world. And when you combine your passion with your vocation, things come under attack.
Yeah.
If I'm a passionate illustrator, and I decide I'm gonna throw myself wholeheartedly into the advertising or illustration industry, well, the things that I'm passionate about illustrating are probably not going to be the things that are most useful for, let's say, Starbucks or Apple or things like that.
Yeah.
So first of all, it comes with a very hefty amount of compromise, and you have to be ready for that.
Yeah.
And for a lot of artists and creative people, it's really hard, especially when it comes to showing and presenting the work, and that shit just getting incinerated in a meeting, and you are trying your best not to just have an emotional breakdown.
Yeah.
Because the CMO of a company just tore apart your whole passionate illustration style.
Yeah.
So
I think that's really good advice in the sense that like it's not always going to work out, and in the sense of like that you want it to. But back to the previous point that we were just talking about, if you are that person who like works hard, does their work outside of their work, I think the opportunities will come to you as well.
Well, okay, so I said the bad part.
Okay, what's the good part?
So I'll end on a positive note.
Okay, we're almost done, guys.
Because I always like to just deliver advice with a healthy, with a grain of salt, as they say, right?
Well, the thing is, not everything's sunshine and rainbows, and not everything's positive.
It's not, and that's why
and a lot of people portray it as like, yeah, follow your dreams, do that.
So I want people to do it. I just don't want them to be discouraged when these bumps in the road do come up, and that's I think in terms of if we're talking about purpose or anything like that. I mean, me and giving people advice based on my life experience is that I'm able to do that. I'm able to get a little bit more in the weeds with some of the less ideal things, because I'm not selling a fucking 6-week program. I'm not selling a book where I really need to seem positive to get you to buy in. I'm not that guy. I'm gonna be real as fuck. So
and you're that way with your team too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I always try to be positive, but I'm not I'm not dipped in sugar.
Sure.
So the thing about being passionate about something, where it will almost always come into play in terms of marketing this skill, is that you're going to be obsessive about it. And when you're obsessive about something, you're going to be the best at it.
Yep.
And if you're the best at something, there's always going to be a market for you. So I'd say a lot of people do fall into that category. So if you're, if
Jordan Peterson talks about that, about competence, about
Yeah.
like if you're really good at your you're going to get what you're worth.
Yeah, exactly. So you're right. And you brought this up in terms of like what I do, because the work that I make for Apple is I wouldn't say that I'm passionate about it. I make informed business decisions. And I'm really someone who tries to make the work effective. Mm-hmm. I'm not there for my own personal gains, right? I mean, I've had my successes. I've done my projects that did well. I'm not done doing it, but I'm also not tripping and throwing people under the bus trying to get a leg up, because
100%.
I'm good.
Yeah. You're okay where you're at.
Right. And so you mentioned, yes, I do have my projects that I do outside, because I'm at a point now where, because I do have passions that need to be tended to, and those don't get watered in the garden of corporate advertising, I have to tend to those outside. And that's how I've learned to do that compromise that I'm talking about. Yeah. So that I'm not submitting like, here's a self-portrait I made with my own blood. and the guy's like, I don't think this is right for 25 to 36-year-old Apple podcast listeners. Yeah. I don't know. It's like, this is the randomest fucking example. But it's like, yeah, but I made it with my own blood. He's like, yeah, I don't think this is right for our market.
Yeah, you're getting what you enjoy out of your practice, not in your workspace.
Yeah, exactly. So don't compromise on your business because of it's not enough of you, and don't compromise on your personal projects because they're not viable enough business opportunities. I think you need to go out in the world, try those things out, see what goes into what category, and try to strike a balance with it, and try to tend to both gardens the way that they need to be tended to.
Beautiful. I think we're going to end it right there, my friend.
All right.
Thanks, brother. Buddy.